If you're a health or a life coach, then I have got some advice for you today. I'm going to just share some really key pieces of advice that I would have for any health or life coach out there. These are the kind of things that I wish I had been told, I wish I knew when I started out as a health coach. And this is very much the kind of things that I share with a lot of my clients today. Let's dive in. Hi there, welcome to the Wholehearted Business Show. I'm Laura. I help health and life coaches get more clients, grow their businesses and live the best lives while they do it. And today on the show, I'm sharing some pieces of advice, things that I think is really helpful for you guys to understand, to think about, to consider when it comes to starting, growing, building a health or a life coaching business. This is definitely advice that I wish I had when I started out, and you'll hear these are quite like general, big kind of topics, but I think when you get your head around these things, I think it can be profoundly helpful no matter what part of your business you're looking at, or no matter what your business is like, no matter what your business model is, all of that stuff. So the first piece of advice that I have is to get comfortable with your own timeline. When it comes to doing, growing any kind of business really, the rate at which you become successful, and another little sneaky piece of advice I would give here as well is to understand what success looks like for you. I think that's a pretty big one. I've talked about this in other episodes of the show, but how you actually define success. But your timeline is going to be your timeline. And when you start to compare yourself to other people and what you think their progress has been, it becomes really disheartening because everyone's got a different set of access to resources, a different kind of set of circumstances. Everyone's got like a backpack, if you imagine, and everyone's backpack's got different stuff in, and you've got to work with whatever is in your backpack. Some people kind of start coaching businesses and already have a really great existing network who are really good potential clients for them. Some people are literally starting from scratch and have no existing network. It's like there's all sorts of different examples like this. But when we start to compare ourselves to other coaches, things can get really, like I say, really disheartening. Another part of this as well is to know that you don't always have to be pushing in your business. I've recently had a really great conversation in one of the group calls in Wholehearted Business, which is my group program, and we were talking about the importance of actually taking time off and resting, even when you feel like you need to be pushing ahead. And sometimes it's really difficult to actually embrace rest and taking time off. But usually, one of the things that I really like to think about with this, and I'm still definitely in the process of accepting my own advice and my own medicine around this, but rest can actually be productive, because when we rest, sometimes we get fantastic downloads from the universe, sometimes we come back much more refreshed. Like, it's really important that we do that to be a good coach and a good business owner. Rest is so important on so many levels. So I often try to reframe rest and taking time off as actually really important to be productive and to be the best possible person I can be in every single area of my life, not just in the business as well. So these things are definitely interlinked. I think accepting that your timeline is going to be your timeline, being willing to take time off and rest when you need it. Like, when you start to notice that you are perhaps like approaching a bit of a business wobble or a bit of a business meltdown, where everything feels like it's terrible and that it's not working, take some time off. That can be a really important sign. But also, like, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone's got like that different, almost like backpack full of experiences, resources, privileges, access to things that we have all got as individuals, and that's going to be wildly different. What you can do though is, if you are looking at your rate of progress towards success and you're not happy with it, you can look at that and decide, why am I not happy with this? What can I do to change things? Is there something easily that I can tweak? What needs to happen to change this? And usually, often, to increase the speed at which we achieve something, there is a form of, I tend to think there's a cost somewhere, whether that's a monetary cost or a time cost or a alignment cost. Sometimes there's costs that come in with actually speeding things up, and that's fine. You can decide whether or not that's a cost that you want to pay to increase your pace, increase your speed. So big kind of general conversation there around timelines, but I think it's also helpful just to look at what your own timeline, your own rate of progress towards your own version of success is, and really get comfortable with what that is for you. And like I say, if you're not happy with that, there's things you can do to change it, but ultimately just kind of be accepting of that, and also understanding that you don't have to be constantly pushing, and that it's okay to rest and take time off when you need to do so. My next piece of advice is to find some kind of support or community. Now, obviously, as a business mentor who sells things that are in this wheelhouse, I would say this, but I've actually, whether or not it's something that you do with me or something that you do with someone else or something that you do informally with other people who are friends who are also coaches, having some kind of support system or network that helps you in your business, in your identity as a coach is really, really important. It makes such a massive difference to, your timelines and the results that you get. If you imagine that it's another kind of access to resources and access to support that you have that can increase your speed of progress. It's just so important on so many different levels. And I think, again, I said identity as a coach there, and I think that's really, really important. And I think sometimes being in communities of other coaches really helps to embed that for you, as well as like all the other forms of support. It's really difficult to do this alone. Like, it really, really is. When I started out, I don't think I was alone. There was other health coaches who were qualifying at the same time as me. And, they were definitely there and we definitely supported each other at that time. But otherwise, there definitely wasn't like the environment that we're in now in terms of the amount of things that you can get supported with and the amount of places that you can go. And I think having access to that now, like back then when I was starting out, would have made a huge difference. So really look at the ways that you can be supported. Like I say, I've got Wholehearted Business, which is my group program. That's a really great place, a really great community, whether or not it's working with a business mentor one-to-one, or whether or not it's, accessing a membership, or whether or not it's just informally starting something and linking with some other coaches. That's great, but just don't do it alone. Have some people who can support you and who can hold your identity as a coach. I think that's so important. And as a business owner, it's really, really going to help your progress. It's really going to help your business. It's really going to help you as an individual as well. And then my third piece of advice is to do what you need to do to get confident in your offer. Now, this is a really interesting one, and it's not as straightforward as it might seem. So something that has made a huge difference for me in terms of the ways in which I show up in my business is getting really, really confident in the results that I get for people. When I was not confident that my offers were getting people results, it was naturally really, really difficult to sell them, because if you don't believe in what it is that you are offering, it's very difficult to show up and actively sell that, because we are nice people. I know that you guys watching this and listening to this are lovely people, and you will find it incredibly difficult to sell something that you are not confident is going to get people results, because you're a nice person. So you need to do what you need to do to feel confident in your offer. Now, there's a massive caveat to this, and that is, especially women, not exclusively, but especially women, the level at which we will have to get to feel confident and believe in ourselves as a coach and believe in our offer is probably way higher than it actually needs to be, because of the way that we are socially conditioned. If you have a big dose of perfectionism in there as well, that's another added thing. So that's the big caveat. You need to look at that and see where that comes into the picture, if it does indeed come in the picture for you. Whether or not there's that kind of social conditioning that, everything has to be like 10 million% before you can feel confident and have some self-belief. Whether or not you suffer from perfectionism, like examine that stuff as well. And then do what you need to do to feel more confident in your offer. And if you're a new coach, it might be that you work with some practice clients and you keep on refining that offer until you get it like really solid. It might be that you use expansion pricing, so that you start with a lower price and you gradually expand your price. The more confident you get, the more evidence that you have that your offer is good. Obviously, you want to collect testimonials and collect feedback. That is the most powerful evidence that your offer is working for people and that you are getting people results. So really focus on what you can do to feel confident. It's going to make a massive difference to how you show up and sell your offer and how you show up in your business as a whole. So really think about that when it comes to the things that you can do in your business that are going to help you grow. Another piece of advice is to not project your own situation, your own likes or dislikes, your own whole thing onto your clients or your potential clients. What a lot of coaches do is they kind of have this thing in their heads that they think, well, if I don't like this, then my clients won't like this. Or if I like this, then my potential clients will like this. If I can not afford this, then my clients cannot afford this, for example. And the danger of this is we kind of shut down the magic that is out there in the people that we work with and the different ways that people's lives look different from ours. Now, you can have a lot in common with someone in terms of the transformation that you give people and perhaps the transformation that you've been through. So a lot of coaches we support people through a transformation that we ourselves have gone through at some point in our lives. And often what happens when we do that, and when we think, oh, well, my potential clients are me 5 years ago, and what we do when we do that, and that makes a lot of sense in terms of the particular transformation that we might be supporting people through. But what happens when we do that is we kind of start to project, well, at that point in my life, I couldn't have done this, or right now I can't do this or afford this, or have the time to invest in this, etc. And we start to project other things onto our potential clients, which then has an impact on, you know, the ways that we do things, the decisions that we make, certainly the pricing decisions that we might make. So my invitation for everyone is to really think about this and think, are the things that you are doing in your coaching business that are based on assumptions that you might be making about your potential clients based on your own lived experience? Now, again, that's not to say that all of these are bad, because they're not, but it's just about questioning that, and especially with pricing, because so often, you know, you will price your stuff and in the back of your head you're thinking, well, I could never afford that right now, or, you know, how can I expect other people to afford it? The bottom line is, especially financially, people's situations are wildly different. And, you know, like some of the circumstances that people have come to work with me in have been completely different to any kind of circumstance that I've ever experienced as an individual. So it's really just about keeping enough openness and not projecting your particular lived experience completely onto your potential clients. Like I say, there's some ways in which that is really, really helpful, particularly when we get into this specific transformation that you might be supporting people through as a coach. But when we bring other things into it, that's not always helpful. So it's just a little reminder, a little piece of advice, just to question that and see whether or not you are doing that, because you could be selling yourself short. The fourth piece of advice that I would give to people, and I mean, in all honesty, I could literally do like several episodes of this show on different pieces of advice that I give to coaches. So obviously this is no means exhaustive. But another thing that I would say to people is, try and focus on one key offer in your business. Now, that's not to mean that you can't have multiple offers. I've already talked about on the show about how having a multi-offer coaching business can make a lot of sense. I will link to the episode of the show where I've talked about that. However, I think especially when you are in, I mean, to be fair, actually at any point in your business, I'm not going to say just when you're starting out, at any point in your business, it makes sense to have an offer that is your focus. And that's not to mean that you don't have other offers. It's not to mean that you don't have other things going on. What I want to say here is there's offers that have a purpose in your business, but the purpose is strategic and it's about leading people in towards other offers, like your core offer. There are other offers though that you might have that have significance in their own right. And it really depends on your business model. And when I talk about business model, this is basically like, what things are you selling and how much are you hoping to sell of them? It's like, it's kind of doing the maths and looking at what that means for your income levels. But having one main focus in terms of your offers, it can make a lot of sense. It makes everything more simple. You know the key thing that you are sending people to. It's like all roads lead to this particular offer. It's kind of like you want it positioned as the key signature thing that you support people with, the key thing that you have. And it makes things a lot easier when you have that, I think. I did not have that for a long time. I kind of don't quite now in some ways. Obviously, Wholehearted Business is, I would always say Wholehearted Business, the group program, as my main focused offer, and everything else kind of like exists around that. But again, you know, just having that focus, and it doesn't mean that you can't have other courses, other group programs, other small digital offers. What their role is, that's where things get really interesting. And I think when we're trying to actively show up and sell multiple things at once, that's where things get messy. And in the process of delivering live a program called the Launch and Sales Fix, and something we talk about in this is how you want to have sales cycles where you are actively promoting and selling specific products. And when you have, you know, it kind of looks different when you've got more than one main thing that you're selling. And that's fine, but it can just make it a lot simpler and a lot easier when you begin by focusing, or even if you are much further on, you focus on one key offer that is the place where you kind of want everyone eventually to end up. And like I say, that's not to say that you can't have other offers, but where they work strategically, like, you know, I talk about Prices Power Hours. Again, I've got a full course, I'll pop a link in for that. You know, that's a great offer, but again, you would be using that offer strategically to lead people into your main coaching offer. You know, small digital products, I've got another course, Super Simple Passive Income, that teaches you how to create small digital products. And again, they can have a significant role in terms of helping you access bundles, for example, which I need to do an episode of the show on and talk a bit about bundles for your list growth, but they can also be sold at a lower price. You know, again, kind of, there's all sorts of just like strategic stuff that all comes into this. It's really, really interesting. But having that one key offer that you leverage that is, an appropriately priced thing, that it makes sense income-wise, that makes everything easier when you have that in your business. And then finally, big piece of advice, one of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to anybody who is starting a coaching business or any business in general, especially coaching businesses though, and I'll explain why, is to get comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable sometimes. Starting a business, and like I said, particularly a coaching business, is a massive exercise in personal development, to the point that I could have never, ever imagined that it would have had the impact that it has had on me, like outside of just the work that I do in the business. When we are having to show up as a coach, and one of the reasons that I love specifically working with coaches is because the nature of our work, it is about us. We might create courses and programs and things like that and try and box things up, but ultimately what we're selling is kind of ourselves. And I know that sounds hideously scary, but we are, to a certain degree, like we are our coach, and our skills, our presence, what we stand for as a coach is a big part of what it is that we're selling. And that can put us as individuals, as people, in quite a, vulnerable position. So it really is this massive exercise in personal development, and it will bring up all of your stuff. It will bring up all of your money mindset stuff. It will bring up a lot of self-worth and self-belief stuff, a lot of confidence stuff. It will bring up, all sorts of different aspects of who you are as a person, and it will bring them to the forefront for you to see very, very clearly and have to find a way through that. And it is a massive, massive part of business. And yes, it's mindset work, but it's also much, much bigger than that. It is just this huge, entirely massive personal development task. And like I say, part of that does require us sometimes to get out of our comfort zone. Something I've said before that I still wholeheartedly believe in is that we need to manage that. Like if you are a deeply feeling sensitive person, constantly pushing out of your comfort zone, that is a one-way ticket to burnout. You will be exhausted. Like we can't constantly exist outside of our comfort zone. I really, really believe in this. We can't, because to be outside of your comfort zone it's stressful. It's a challenge. It's hard. So we need to find a way of managing how we do that, and finding ways to support our nervous system as well. But we do need to push out of our comfort zone sometimes. It is going to be uncomfortable sometimes, but we need to balance that with time in our comfort zone too. So it's a big balance. But yeah, starting any kind of business, growing any business, like at every stage, it doesn't stop. Like I've been doing this for over 12 years now. So I recently had my 42nd birthday, and I registered my limited company on my 30th birthday. So my limited company's existed for 12 years. I trained as a coach preceding that, so it's been about 14 years that I've been kind of like in this world, and there's still things that are challenging me. There's still things that are coming up. There's still new ways that my self-belief and self-confidence and all of this stuff is coming together. And I started from a place of really and I'll probably have to talk about this at some point, but I really started my business at a point of quite low self-worth, really low self-confidence. A lot of what I was kind of projecting was like a bit of a performance, actually, when I'm really honest about it. I think looking way back, it was not coming from a place of really integrated self-worth and self-confidence. And it's taken me a long time, and I still have places that I need to go with that. There's still new things that I need to explore and new ways that I'm going to grow. And we always want to be growing as humans, you know what I mean? We don't want to be just stuck still. But your coaching business will accelerate that process quite significantly, let me tell you. Which again brings me nicely back around to some of the other pieces of advice that I've given, get support, because when you are being challenged to step outside of your comfort zone, having the support from people who are alongside you on that journey, or who have already gone through that journey, is invaluable. It is so helpful. So it's a really, really important point. And like I say, all these things kind of tie in, taking rest, being okay with your timeline being your timeline, all of this kind of stuff really comes together. So like I say, I could give you so many tips, so many pieces of advice when it comes to running a coaching business, but these ones really spoke to me to share today, because again, I think these are quite big topics, big juicy topics. They're not specific strategic things, but I think when you take these on board, they can make a really huge difference in how successful your coaching business is and how you feel as the coach kind of showing up in the whole thing as well. So yeah, I hope that's been helpful. Do let me know. Leave me a comment if you watch on YouTube, pop me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Wholeheartedly Laura. A little reminder, I've mentioned Wholehearted Business a couple of times. Wholehearted Business will be reopening in September. It's a year-long program, 12 months. It's an amazing community. We've got just the best people in that community. It is fantastic. The support that you get in there is second to none. Like, you know, I can blow my own trumpet with this one. It is an amazing program. We'll be reopening in September. If you head to the link in the description, you'll be able to join the wait list. You guys will get a special offer and you will get first dibs to get to join, because I do have a limit on how many people I can take into that and support appropriately. So do check that out, and that'll be coming in September. But yeah, I hope everyone is super, super well. Yeah, and I will catch you next week, guys. Take care. Bye.